Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Lady Jane series review. I am happy that you can join me today. If you are new to this channel, welcome. Click the subscribe button below for future notifications and updates. Click the like button and share this content with other fans. So once again, the algorithms that be suggested that I watch an 8-part series, My Lady Jane. It premiered on Amazon Prime on June 27th, but I ignored the suggestion until clips from the show started popping up on my YouTube feed. And I was wondering what the hell is going on. Why did I see a clip of a handsome guy transform into a horse? I gotta get this off my chest. As a Black American woman, I know more about the British monarchy and the history of it than I need to know, and I have to factor that into my score. Why? My Lady Jane is considered to be a fantasy comedy according to Amazon Prime, but it is also historical fiction. The show is based on a true story, a very sad story. Lady Jane Grey is one of the forgotten monarchs in British history. We know about Henry VIII and his children. We know that the British monarchy has an extended family, many cousins who have titles, and many of whom are on the list of succession. In this story, Jane Grey was the great-granddaughter of King Henry VII, and she was a cousin to Edward VI, Mary, and Elizabeth. After Henry VIII died, the crown was passed to Edward at the age of 9. He fell sick and died at the age of 15. Edward was the first British monarch who was raised Protestant. So to prevent the kingdom from going back to Catholicism, Edward, along with his handlers, wrote a will making his Protestant cousin, Lady Jane Grey, as his successor. She was 2 or 3 years older than Edward, and she was already married to Lord Guilford Dudley, who was the son of Edward's chief minister, John Dudley, the Duke of Northumberland. Edward's will was signed and approved by his Privy Council and his bishops. After Edward died, Jane became queen, but Edward's Privy Council switched their allegiance to Mary. So now they're traitors, okay? Under Henry VIII's Third Succession Act, Henry restored Mary and Elizabeth to the line of succession. He disinherited Mary and Elizabeth in 1533, declared them to be illegitimate, aka bastards, and restored them back on the line of succession in 1543, thanks to wife number 6, Catherine, the same wife whose story was the basis of the movie Firebrand. Remember that movie? Yeah. So Edward was raised to believe that his sisters have no claim to the throne. And you really can't blame him for that because his father mucked things up. So Jane was queen for 9 days in July 1553. Mary became queen. The country went back to Catholicism, and she ordered Jane to be beheaded in February 1554. When she died, Jane was 17 years old. What the series get right is Lady Jane was one of the smartest, most educated women in England. She married Guilford Dudley against her will. She became queen against her will. But she was married and therefore expected to have sons. Another thing the show is right about are the names and the titles of the people in this world. However, the series' sarcastic, hilariously funny narrator tells the audience from the start that the story rewrites history. Furthermore, Edward is no longer the fair-skinned, strawberry blonde teenager in paintings. He is a dark-skinned black adult. And Edward is gay. And in this series, there are 2 types of people: the Verities, or the normal people, and the Ethians, humans who turn into animals. And there are also what is known as division laws that legalize the segregation between the Verities and the Ethians. In the series, Jane, played by Emily Bader, is victim to her mother's schemes. Her mother, Lady Frances Grey, and John Dudley arranged the marriage between Jane and Guilford, played by Edward Blumell. And over the course of the series, Jane and Guilford grow fond of each other and fall in love. However, Jane finds out by accident that Guilford is an Ethian who turns into her horse every day at sunrise. John Dudley arranged the marriage because Jane is very close to the crown. Guilford married Jane because he thinks she can find a cure for Ethianism, but it doesn't change the fact that the division laws state a marriage between a Verity and an Ethian is illegal. What about Mary and Elizabeth? Well, Mary, played by Kate O'Flynn, is the main antagonist, and Lord Seymour, Edward's uncle, played by one of my favorite actors, Dominic Cooper, is her accomplice and her lover. Mary is mad as hell that when she successfully poisons Edward, leading the kingdom to believe that Edward is dead, Jane, without her knowledge, becomes queen. Mary thought once Edward is gone, she would be queen. But during the course of the series, she plans to also take Jane out. And Elizabeth? Well, she is no longer the fair-skinned, strawberry blonde teenager in Edward's world. Oh no, she is a racially ambiguous young lady, and as a member of the court, she has a front row seat to all the shenanigans that goes on. You know who else has a front row seat? The royal dog, Petunia, who, surprise, surprise, she too is an Ethian. And you learn later on in the series there are more Ethians than we realize. So, I am going to give this series 3 out of 5 stars. And let me clarify, I watched all 8 episodes because I do believe that the quality of the end can make or break a movie, in this case, a series. What bothers me the most, and I can't believe I am going to say this, I have a serious problem with the casting director, the series directors, and anyone else who is in charge of casting. The entertainment news media have made comparisons between My Lady Jane and Bridgerton. Well, in the past, people have complained, and rightfully so, that in too many movies and TV shows, there was not enough diversity in terms of characters and the actors people hired. Now, it looks obvious that the industry nowadays is checking off boxes so that they don't offend anyone and appeal to a very broad audience. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not work. What Bridgerton gets right, the only characters based on real people are Queen Charlotte and King George. Every other character is totally fictional. The Bridgerton family, the Featheringtons, Simon, Lady Danbury, all the characters are fictional. And for a long time there was talk as to why the industry did not hire non-Caucasian actors to play fictional characters. What does not work in My Lady Jane is hiring non-Caucasian actors to play actual Caucasian people. In comparison, 5 years ago, there was a report that Hollywood tried to make a movie about Harriet Tubman in the 90s, and they wanted to hire a white actress to play her. And a lot of black people were angry about that. And this report came out after the release of the film Harriet. Harriet Tubman in that film was played by Cynthia Erivo, a very smart choice. So the article was showing that it took decades to make the biopic and why. So the point is, it doesn't work that Edward and Elizabeth are played by actors of color. It would have worked if they were playing fictional characters, but this story is based on real people and real events. I did not buy it at all. I also did not buy that Edward is gay, We don't know if Edward VI was gay. He died when he was a teen and he was looking for a suitable female to marry. However, it absolutely works in the series Mary and George. That story centers around King James and the Duke of Buckingham. Actual people, actual events. King James was Queen Elizabeth's Scottish cousin and her successor. It is well documented that James and Buckingham had a long-term affair. So if you want to tell stories about queer monarchs, and there are a lot of stories in history, heck, I'm all for it. The acting in My Lady Jane is fine for the most part, and the lustful scenes between Jane and Guilford are fun to watch. The chemistry between the actors are off the charts. The comedy is funny, and I do like the narrator a lot. If this was a totally fictional comedy fantasy, I would have given it a higher score. But again, if it is not okay to consider hiring a white woman to play Harriet Tubman, it is not okay to hire a black man to play a white teenage boy. So that is all for today, my friends. Let me know if you watched My Lady Jane already and if you enjoyed it. If you disagree with me, that's okay. If you agree, that's okay too. Either way, I'm all right. Would love to hear from you guys. So take care and have fun at home streaming.